I'm just going to pin our title. We are talking about stop putting yourself last, the importance of no longer putting yourself last, and learning how to take care of your needs first. And for us to be able to do that, the first thing that we need to be connected to is our love worthiness. So everyone is inherently love worthy. You are inherently worthy of being taken care of, no matter what your gender, no matter where you're coming from. That is something that is innate inside of you. However, time, experience, and trauma will start to tell us that we are not worthy of being taken, um, of folks paying attention to us, of us paying attention to ourselves, that other people's needs and wants kind of trump our own. And so, for us to really learn how to take care of ourselves, first we have to start with believing that we are worthy of taking care of ourselves. Otherwise, we will keep procrastinating. Otherwise, we will keep putting it off. Otherwise, we'll keep saving it until tomorrow, or we'll do a few things that are about attending to our self-care and our needs, but we won't take care of everything. So, well, let me introduce myself. For those of you who are joining me for the first time, my name is Sheena Lachey. I'm the founder of Black Girls Heal, and I help women heal from the symptoms of love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and the trauma that causes it, to make way for healthy love, beginning with your relationship with yourself. And I was a therapist for over 12 years, a licensed therapist for over 12 years before I transitioned to doing this full time and helping women here via my podcast and other platforms to help really make that change. So, this is actually part three of a series that I started last week after Christmas, where I was talking about our Healed and Love Woman framework. And so, the framework is where how I help women go from being love addicted to love balance, love avoidant to becoming love available, and feeling love deprived to becoming more love nourished. When I first started teaching the system or teaching this framework, I talked about us going from being love deprived to feeling love worthy. But the more I taught and the more I thought about, okay, what is the actual outcome? Because we're already innately love worthy, is us actually being nourished by the way that we take care of ourselves, that we are actually physically, emotionally, mentally comforting ourselves. And so what I talked about is for us to actually go to a place where we're actually being balanced in the way that we show up in our relationships. It starts with how we talk about ourselves. It starts with how we think about ourselves. It starts with how we treat ourselves. And that also reflects on whether or not we are going to allow ourselves to receive love from other people, to receive goodness from other people, instead of, especially if we struggle with love deprivation, which is like this innate sense of self loathing, um, you will struggle to let people in. So let me talk a little bit about the differences between those three different intimacy disorders or the way they present. Love addiction is when you are over focused on the outcome, or it's the persistent obsession of a person, a relationship, or the fantasy of who you think that relationship or that person can be, and mistaking that intensity and obsession for love. So the way that I'm going to fix this hole on the inside of me is to be in love, to have my happy ending, to have my fairy tale, and then that's going to fix something on the inside. It's going to prove that I'm good enough, and I'm going to be able to rest and relax and find security in that, without realizing that over attachment to that outcome can make you susceptible to ignoring red flags in people. And for the most part, at least in the areas that I serve, women will abandon themselves in order to get that happy ending, not realizing that the person that they are being connected to is really dangerous. For my folks who struggle with love avoidance, it's the persistent putting up of walls to avoid being emotionally overwhelmed, and being intimate with folks. And so sometimes it looks like what you may think about when you think about love avoidance, which is aggressively pushing people away and saying, I don't like people, or I don't like you. But a lot of times, especially in this day and age, there are many of us who are love avoidant, and it presents very high functioning. So we're just busy all the time. Or we will hang out with people, but it's few and far between. And we call ourselves being selective with the folks that we let in. But even with those people that we let in, they only know this much about what we're feeling, what we're going through. And we only tell them things once we've already worked it out ourselves. Like, we don't really allow people to be a part of our everyday experience. And we can feel very emotionally overwhelmed or even anxious with the thought of someone being a part of our everyday experience. Is a lot safer for us to do life alone. And the way that you can know if this is a difference between you just being introverted or you being a loner or you being someone who just wants a certain number of friends in your life, but not really, you don't really need all those people, is when you think about your current state, are you satisfied with it? Are you satisfied with the amount of people and the amount of intimacy and vulnerability that you have with the folks in your life? Or do you actually feel pretty lonely? Do you wish that it was more, the frequency was more? Do you wish that the depth was deeper? Do you have this yearning to know and to be known, but also this fear of folks um, getting to that place because what will happen? They may hurt me. It may not last. There may be some type of betrayal. I may find out something about them that I don't like, or they may find out something about me that I don't want them to see, that I don't like about myself. So there's that. And then the third intimacy disorder is love deprivation. So love deprivation looks a lot like love avoidance, which is kind of keeping people out and pushing people away. But the difference between love avoidance and love deprivation is, for the most part, people who are love avoidant, again, are really high functioning. So we present as very confident in society. We have a lot of things going for us. We have a lot of friendships. We may be really successful, which is why it can take a long time for someone who's love avoidant to realize that maybe there's something going on with them, like that they're the common denominator, because the love avoidant is really good at saying, okay, well, this person didn't work out, this opportunity didn't work out because they were the problems in this way. Um, and because they have a lot of capacity in other areas of their life. Someone who struggles with love deprivation, they keep people away because they really don't like themselves, and they're very much aware that they don't like themselves. They anticipate rejection and abandonment from other people because they feel like they are not good enough. So they have resolved to live this very insular life on their own versus putting themselves out there, because what's the point of trying when you already know what it's going to be? And I already know what it's going to be, not because if I do enough skills, my life will change, but just because no one's going to want what I have to offer. And so because they struggle with that extreme sense of deprivation around love and feeling worthy, they will neglect themselves. And a lot of times they will over focus on taking care of other people. So it doesn't really matter about me. Let me over focus and take care of my kids. Let me take care of the community. Let me take care of my neighbors. Let me take care of my family members. And I will sacrifice and show up physically for them. I will show up financially for them. I will be there as their, encourager and cheerleader in their ear. But when it comes to me, I don't do that. I don't even think about it. And if I do somehow come to my own mind and remembrance, let's put this charger in. If I do somehow come to mind, there's almost like this disgust that I have when it comes to looking at myself, right? And so there's a big variation between those of us who can look at ourselves with that like really deep self-loathing, and that's the source of our love deprivation, versus those of us who never really learned how to take care of ourselves because we were trained to focus on other people's needs and what they want, and when you make other people happy, then you can be happy. But no matter where you are in the spectrum, you didn't really learn how to focus on yourself. So for you to learn how to focus on yourself, you need to start to believe that you are worthy of that focus, that you are worthy of taking up that amount of space, the same amount of brain, mental, and physical space that you will give to other people. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. Thank you to everyone who is here, joining me during your midday lunch day. I am pulling up my little notes to make sure I have them in front of me. I think I clicked out of what I wanted to talk about. So, like I said at the beginning, this is part 3 of our Heal and Love Woman framework. So I have 2 other parts where I talked about, hi Tanya, where I talked about going from being love addicted to love balance. So you can watch that. And then also going from being love avoidant to being love available. And today we're talking about going from being love deprived to feeling worthy of love, so that you can start putting yourself first and stop putting other people last. Okay? So the first thing that you want to work into, or that you're going to adopt as a mindset, is building a high sense of unshakable value. Now, this is a big jump especially based on what I just described, right? If you truly deal with a lot of self-loathing or feeling like you're not good enough, moving to a place of unshakable value seems like a big leap, but it's still the end goal. So, unshakable value, what does that look like? It means that no matter who is around or who is not around, no matter what I have accomplished or not accomplished, no matter how much money is in my bank account or not in my bank account, no matter how I look today or don't look today, that I feel worthy and good enough. That I know that my value is inherent and not just in my head, but that I feel it in my body. When you walk around and when you have a belief that your value is contingent on outside external factors, you are always going to feel either lacking or so fragile to where any opinion, anything, any experience will knock you down. Okay? So it looks like examining how is it that I talk to myself? Do I even talk to myself on an everyday basis? One really common skill that we hear about a lot, but it may not be as common, maybe because we hear about a lot, or maybe it feels kind of corny, or it maybe just feels just that intimate, is mirror work. So, mirror work, for those of you who don't know, is you looking in the mirror, talking to yourself, and telling yourself things that are base, that are kind, giving yourself compliments, affirming things. How often do you do mirror work? How often do you talk to yourself and tell yourself all the things that you want your mentors to tell you, that you want your lovers to tell you, that you want your family members to tell you? How often does it happen? Right? When you have an unshakable value in yourself, that type of self talk and self intimacy doesn't feel as weird or it doesn't feel as strange. It just feels like it's just part of your everyday experience because you love you and you are best friends with yourself. The second thing that and this is going to be a shorter live for us today, because I have a sick little one at home, unfortunately. And we have a doctor's appointment that we need to go to very soon. But I will, if there are any questions, I will jump in, questions or thoughts. So, as always, if you have any of those shares, go ahead and put them in the comments while I'm here, and I'm happy to chat with you about them. But the second way that you're going to move from putting yourself last, the mindset of putting yourself last and taking care of your needs first, is to prioritize having a healthy balance between pleasure and self care and responsibilities. So, for those who struggle with love deprivation, a lot of times the focus is on just doing the bare minimum things that you need to get through life. So, I'm going to buy groceries, I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to come home. But how often do you laugh throughout the day? How often do you have a deep belly laugh, that you have deep enjoyment, that you have pleasure that runs from the top of your head down through your fingertips and through your toes? How often do you have those experiences, if at all? Can you remember the last time you've had them? Have you been so much into the motions, going through the motions of life, that is a novel experience? And what happens, the reason why all these things are also intertwined and they overlap, is the way that shows up in love addiction, like you not knowing how to give enjoyment and pleasure to yourself, is that when you start to feel low, or you start to feel bored, or you start to feel like something is not right, you will look for something outside of you to make you feel better. So now it's time for me to get on a dating app, or I need to find a relationship to be in, or I'm going to find a new work project or a new degree to get certified in when I'm starting to feel low and not feel enough. And even though those types of accomplishments are great things, I mean, if you are talented and purpose driven, that's amazing, but that's still work. When we think about pleasure, I want you to consider your 5 and 6 year old version of yourselves. What is it that they would do? Would they look and say, oh, I want to go and get a degree and get a certification for fun, for pleasure, right? Even if you're an intellectual, I love learning new things. But what were the things that would make 5 and 6 year old version of you giggle and like, kick her feet up, enjoying pleasure? Do you have any of those experiences where you get to play, where you get to create, where you get to just be free and experience? And if not, can we start to prioritize those? Can we see that as just as important as brushing your teeth? Can we see that as just as important as getting your light bill paid? Why? Why am I putting that on the same level as like shelter, food, and everything? Because you know probably better than I do what happens when you're going through the motions and you're feeling depressed and empty. This life and having shelter and having all this stuff is great, but what does it feel like to um how how do I want to say this? When you feel like you don't have a life worth living, or if you're waiting for your life to begin, right? It kind of makes these blessings, and they're for sure blessings, but it makes these blessings not as shiny and novel, right? Because you've built this really great container, but you don't really have an experience where you're exploring and growing in between it, if that makes sense, right? Someone said, such great questions. I would think about these things today. Yeah, absolutely. So, for clarity, that second point is to learn how to have a healthy balance between indulging your pleasures and taking care of your everyday experience. The alternative to this is having cycles of isolation and numbing out and not taking care of yourself, or avoiding things, or staying very busy, or self-medicating behaviors, right? So I'm running from thing to thing to thing, and I might even have a really busy schedule. That's something that I see with my coaching students, who are part of my main program, the Recovery School. As a lot of them will have really busy lives where they're doing a whole lot of things, right? So it's not that their calendar is not filled, but there's not really anything that actually brings them pleasure. They're just keeping busy, and they're spreading themselves thin between work and obligations and people, but there's nothing that's actually there for them. There's not even rest really in their calendar, right? And so that's one of the things that we have to work through to help them find that type of balance. So, one of the things that we're doing right now, for those of you who are just now joining and you haven't been caught up on the podcast, I have a podcast called the Black Girls Heal Podcast, where I talk about these things. I talk about love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation in detail. For the first 90 days of this year, for the first 3 months, I am doing a multi part series on us um, healing trauma that impacts our relationships with ourselves, our relationship with our mothers and our mother relationships and family trauma, our relationship with our money and how that makes us feel as far as our abundance or feeling safe in our body, and our relationships with men. And so for these first 3 weeks, I'm focusing on our relationships with ourselves. And so I just dropped an episode that talked about balancing healthy non-attachment versus being avoidant and ignoring yourself. So you can check that out, and it's on your favorite podcast player, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and it's even on our website if you don't have a podcast player, blackgirlsheal.org. But at the end of each of these different sections and series, I'm hosting a workshop for us to do an intensive set of work and go deeper on this and like really leave this stuff behind in 2023, because in 2024 we're doing something new. And so all the things I'm talking about right now, learning how to build a romantic, intimate relationship with yourself so that everything else is a springboard from that, is so, so important. So we're going to be talking about that, learning how to nurture yourself, nourish yourself. And we're not just going to be, in fact, there's not really going to be as much talk about building routines and all that, because I feel like you can like throw a stone physically and metaphorically and hit somebody who can teach you about that. You can go on TikTok and there are a million people who are going to tell you how to build a self-care routine. And they're all great. It's all great information. But when I think about nurturing and feeling connected to yourself, I'm thinking about those deep, lonely moments at night. I'm thinking about when you get a text that's really disappointing. I'm thinking about when you have a hope and a dream deferred. I'm thinking about when you get really good information and a good opportunity and you feel like you're not deserving of it. How do you talk yourself through that? How can you actually be that person for yourself that you truly need? That's what we're going to be talking about. And yeah, we'll be talking about some other things too, as far as building pleasure and building really big intimacy with yourself. But that's what we're going to be talking about, like truly building that romance with yourself, um, and being that divine energy that you need and cultivating that within yourself. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things. We're going to be talking about the trauma that gets in the way of that. Um, and so each of these workshops are building on top of each other, but you can absolutely pick the topic that stands out the most to you, and we can go from there. Okay. Are there any questions? I see the folks here. Are there any questions or thoughts about what I've shared before I pop off for today regarding putting yourself first, building the mindset to want to put yourself first? Let me know. And if this was good to go, if you feel good and satisfied with this, that's also great as well. I just want to check before I go. And this is me stalling, giving y'all a few minutes to type just in case. I'm going to take a sip. Hello to everyone who is joining. I may be signing off. I was just talking about putting yourself, how to stop putting yourself last to take care of your needs. Oh, I didn't even say where to go to register for the workshop. You can click the link in the bio, or you can go to blackgirlsheal.org/2024. There's a free guide and syllabus that goes over all the lessons that I'm going to be talking about over the next 3 months. And then also you can pick the workshop that you want to enroll in, or you can get them all bundled together at a discounted price. So it's totally up to you. Okay. The course sounds good. Awesome. The workshop that's coming up, the Building a Self-Romance, I'm really excited about it. I'm expecting a lot of tears. So it's going to be on a Saturday morning, January 20th. And I have the start time. And I was like, how long do I think that this is going to go? So right now it says an hour and a half, but I'm going to stay. I mean, anyone who's gone to my workshops, you know that I stay as long as there's questions and as long as we are being intimate. So I've been known to have multi-hour workshops, depending on how the spirit is moving, which I really love. And so you get access to the replay, lifetime access to the replay as well. And if you cannot come, either because you work, you have another engagement, you can also submit a question and I will answer it at the workshop. Tanya says, can you review the first point? So the first point for helping you start to stop putting yourself last and learn how to take care of your needs first is to build unshakable value within yourself. So I am special. I am important. I deserve to take up space. It is good that I exist in this world. It is good that I am here. Not only that I have a purpose, because I think sometimes, especially if you've been parentified or been in a lot of codependent relationships, purpose on one hand feels like empowering, right? Like I'm here for a reason. But purpose can also be translated to be, I am important because of the tool that I serve for other people. So this is where it gets very easy for us to be martyrs and for us to prioritize other people versus ourselves. No, I'm important just because I'm important. If I never did anything for anybody else, then it would still be good that I'm here and that I am breathing in this world. And because that's the truth, because it wouldn't matter no matter what I do for anyone else, just me being here is enough. Let me actually kind of change my mind to think about, okay, what if that was my only purpose in life? That it didn't matter what I did for anyone else. And this includes, and this will be, I'm including this for people who are mothers. I'm including this for people who are healers, for people who are teachers, for people who are just used to giving your all to other people. And that's almost part of your identity. For a moment, suspend that part of your identity, go into your imagination. What if I was only in this world just to take care of me? How would I feel about myself? How would I describe myself? Would I still feel as important and as needed and as valued? Right? Do I want myself? Do I love myself? Am I enough? And if you don't feel connected to that, then that's the work that we're going to be doing. It's hard to believe those affirmations, though. I know logically it's true and I don't feel it. Yeah. So what do you feel like gets in the way for you? And that might be a really big answer and too hard to type in like the little box that it gives you to type. But what do you feel like gets in the way of you believing that's true? You're welcome. You're very welcome. For those who are just joining, we are talking about building self value, and I just talked about what it looks like to build self value. And a person shared that my answer about affirming our belief in ourselves. Logically, that sounds true, but it's hard to believe it. And I think, and y'all, that's why I've done this work. That's why, like, I do this work. That's why I continue to talk about these same points, because for the longest time, I absolutely can relate to that. I can relate to logically. Someone says you need to love yourself or believe in yourself, whatever, and like not only is that people telling you that, like, really belittling and dismissive of me as an adult, intelligent woman, but also I do feel like I do feel like I love myself, right? I don't think that I'm trash, like a trash person. However, you may not logically think that you think that way, but there may be incidents, events, relationships in your life that are treating you in a way that that does not reflect the type of love that you feel like you deserve. And you may be tolerating that. There may be some things that you really want in life that you are either not putting yourself out for, or you're expecting the worst. And even in that fear and anxiety, there comes a revelation, or kind of reveals that maybe you believe that you want these things, but there's a part of you that doesn't believe that you're worthy of it, or doesn't believe that you can actually sustain it, or that the things that you want don't want you back, right? So there's a lot of different areas and ways that low self-worth can show up. Even if every day when we talk to other people, we talk about how much we love ourselves and how we think we're the best thing since sliced bread. But meanwhile, our low self worth can come out sideways in other areas of our life. So the person answered, I've never believed them. Probably childhood programming. I don't know if I can rewire if I don't know if I can't rewire my brain. So you can rewire your brain. So here's the thing: you were not, to the point of your comment. Probably my childhood programming. It is programming. You did not come into this world being like, I don't deserve to take up space, or whatever your negative core beliefs are. You were trained that way. It was something that you were educated on. It was your own miseducation. So you can re-educate yourself. You can unlearn it. It's very hard. It is very hard. Don't mistake me saying that it is possible with me saying that it is easy. Um, but it's not impossible at all. Um, because and that we're going to get into the self-nurturing thing in the first workshop, and the second workshop about mama trauma. And I want to say the name of that workshop is like cutting the ties of like mother trauma and everything. Um, we're going to talk about letting go of the lies and the trauma that was projected onto you from other people. So there's a lot of us who are holding on to negative beliefs and feelings about ourselves. And the reason why we can't get through it is because it's not our own belief, it's somebody else's stuff. And so we've been carrying not only our own trauma, but I've been carrying on the beliefs that my mom gave me, and beliefs and traumas that my dad gave me, and the beliefs and the burdens that my brothers gave me, and the beliefs and the burdens that my family of origin gave me. And so I've been carrying all this stuff that doesn't belong to me. So no matter how much I'm trying to like shoot at it and get all the tools for it, it's not going to hit it, because it was never mine to begin with. So we're going to be talking about at that workshop more about giving those things back to folks, that it doesn't, and identifying what's ours versus theirs, because that's part of it. Like, how do I know that this is actually my negative core belief versus theirs? So we're going to be talking about identifying that, and then also what to do about it. So it is possible, my love. I promise it's possible. And I think also with the healing process is hearing these messages over and over again, which is why, I mean, you're always here, and so I always love seeing your name and everything. But um, it is hearing these messages over and over again until it clicks. You know how sometimes like you'll hear some advice that you've heard forever, and then one day for whatever reason it takes on a new meaning, and you're like, wait, I is that what this has meant this whole time? And like it hits something different in your heart. It takes what it takes. And it takes that consistency, and it takes patience with yourself to not feel like there's a deadline. And I that might be my own thing. I don't know if everybody has a thing that, but I know the way that sometimes my trauma has manifested is like, if I don't get it now, if I don't fix this now, if I don't change my self-esteem now, it's never going to happen, or I'm going to miss out on all these opportunities. I'm going to look really dumb, right? We did, so we have support circles in our BGH members club. So I have my recovery school program, which is where I help women heal from love addiction, love avoidance, and love deprivation. And then the smaller program, the members club, we have weekly support groups. So that's for everybody. You know, if you can't do this bigger program, or you have resources that you feel like really help you with this stuff, um, but you want some extra support around other things, and that's what this is for, or it can help you with that. So today we did a support circle around ADHD, and I talked about rejection sensitivity. And rejection sensitivity being that you've had so many instances of rejection and being treated as not being good enough, to now you have an oversensitivity to the threat of it. And you kind of have this belief that you're not good enough as well. So we talked about that. And if you join the club, you'll be able to get the recording to that, even if you weren't able to make it. Um, but yeah, like really allowing yourself to take that time to unlearn these things, and know that even when it feels like it's been this way forever, the longer you go, the more you can create new neural pathways in your brain. And there was something else about that that I wanted to say that I kind of got lost because ADD, but that's okay. Hopefully that made sense. Are there any other shares or questions before I let y'all go for today? If you're catching the replay, go ahead and put replay in the chat before I let us go. And for those of us who would like to join us at those workshops, again, you can go to blackgirlsheal.org/2024. You can get the free guide, and there's a list of all the workshops that we have coming up. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, everybody. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off for today. I hope y'all have a good one, and I will see you in our next live. Take care. Bye. Bye, YouTube.